Okay. My name is Manuel Escamilla. I'm here with the Santa Ana Public Library. Today is let's see, Friday, October 17th at approximately 1 p.m. Okay. Miss, can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Helen Parga Moraga.
Hi. Helen, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was born in Santa Ana in 1926. The address was 1016 Stafford, which is Civic Center Drive now. I lived in the Logan barrio all my life, except a couple years on West Fifth Street, a couple years in Tustin, but other than that, Logan all my life.
So can you tell me about your early childhood and growing up?
My early childhood, well, it was quite interesting, really.
We can edit this.
Said, well, I had a grandma that was a bootlegger. And she was a businesswoman, really. I must have been this is something that I really remember mostly, because she must have, she was planning on something when she made me a coat out of an old coat somebody had left behind and after visiting Grandma. And she turned it into a coat for me. And in that coat, there was little pockets about pint size. And Grandma would fill them up with whiskey, which was really moonshine, because it was homemade. And she would put them in my pockets inside my coat, and we'd walk down the alley delivering. Anytime I would help Grandma, she'd give me 5 cents, 4 cents, depends on how she felt that day. That's my Grandma Parga. Now, my other grandma, Florencia Acevedo, which was Grandma Conchita's comadre. Now, she was a complete different woman. She was, now, see, I'm getting into
That's okay.
two families, but they were always together, and they even got married together. Well, who was I? Well, my grandmother, Florencia, was completely different. She was very giving person, no business whatsoever. But she was a type of woman that you could talk to, and she would talk to you. She had stories galore of her old country, but I can't remember all of them, but there's some real particular that would really impress you, is that when she met my grandpa in Mexico, and that was in Torreon, Mexico, she met Grandpa on a park, patio, what do you call it? Plaza? She met him there, but just eyesight. And she was engaged to marry a Francisco. But, his mother insisted on my grandma using her old wedding gown, and Grandma didn't want that wedding gown. And now she's the nice woman. And she was, that day that they were going to get married, Miguel Acevedo, which is was my grandma's husband, went by her window, and she jumped out of the window and got on his horse and took off and left Pancho with Francisco with a wedding going on. And they came to Aguascalientes and spent time there. Now, meantime, Grandpa made a couple of. He was a trader with the Indians, and he had knowledge of lots of Indian languages. And he could go, he's a trader, he could go on and on for days meeting different chiefs, really, and talk business, maybe trading this and that. My grandpa would trade horses and cows and goats and whatever there was available. That was trading. It was bartering, at that time. And they all did it, I think. But mostly, Grandpa, that was his job, main job. When they came to the United States, by that time, Grandpa he had gotten a job with the Santa Fe Rail Company. I don't know if it was the rail company or the freight, or it was something to do with railroad. And when the railroad would come to different reservations, or campsites of Indians, they would have my grandpa interpret the Indians and what they were going to do, what the gringos were going to do. And my grandpa would translate exactly. He knew the English language through bartering from Aguascalientes to Texas, bartering machinery, whatever he could get hold of. He was that businessman. And then they came to the United States. When they decided to move to the United States, because the train was coming into New Mexico, and Grandpa had to get a pay to come into the United States, which Grandma said it was 2 cents in El Paso. And then they decided, well, Grandpa got he traded 2 horses for a covered wagon. Yeah, 2 horses for a covered wagon. Okay. And in that, by that time, my mom had already been born. She was born under a pepper tree somewhere. They don't know. Because she couldn't ever get a fix on where she was born, but somewhere on the railroad there was a pepper tree, and she was born under there. That's my mom. Meanwhile, they were coming into the United States on that covered wagon. They arrived in Coachella, which was a reservation then, and they stayed there for a while, and they started migrating while the train was being built into California. Interesting.
Oh yeah. So with the family, do you know when they got to Orange County?
Yeah, Grandpa was here in 19. No, that was not. That was in 1899. because the Pargas were here. The Acevedos were here in 1899, and the Pargas were here in 1903, because my dad was born here. Okay.
All right. So you told us a little bit about, I guess, one side of your family. Can you tell us a little bit about the other side?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, let's see now. That was the Parga side.
That was the Parga side.
And oh, yeah. No, wait a minute. That was Acevedo. Yeah, no, that was Acevedo. But where I started with the wine, the whiskey, that was La Parga. Poor grandma. She was so sharp. Ooh.
What was your grandma's name?
Huh?
What was your grandma's name?
My grandma, Parga or Acevedo?
Parga.
Parga, Concepción. Conchita, Doña Conchita. Okay? And grandpa's, the Acevedo, her name was Florence. Acevedo. With a C. Okay? Okay.
Well, can you tell me a little bit more about your Parga?
The Parga side? That's interesting. Okay. They arrived here about 1902, because my dad was born, or 2 or 3, because my dad was born, I found here, which I gotta find it. Oh, no, you'll see it later. I just found his inducting, where you go to the service and so on. They used to send him, and then it shows there that he was born 1905. Anything else? Tell me.
Well,
Ask me, because I'm thinking double time.
Okay. Well, can you tell me a little bit more about the bootlegging? That's very
That's
interesting.
It's interesting, huh? Yeah, boy. I didn't think nothing about it, because only a little girl, I must have been about 6 years old. But I was a sharp kid. I was no dummy, believe me. That's why I have so many memories. Well, this is the Parga side, okay? The Acevedo, they're all circus performers and all that. No, that's Acevedo's, huh? You want to keep... what do you want to write? My mind's double timing right now.
Okay.
Estoy Parga, Acevedo, There was...
I guess I'm going to go with the Pargas.
Parga? Okay. Grandpa and Grandma Parga came into the United States through the railroad también. But he had been working in Bixby. I can't remember the name. Bixby? No. He had been, but when they came into the United States, they came in through Aguascalientes, because that's where they lived. And they continuously went into Texas all the time, Came in, crossed the borders, because they lived not in Juarez. They paid 2 cents también. 2 cents. Evidently, that was the quota to get into the United States. Then he, too, got a job in the railroad, and he worked his way to California on the railroad. And my grandmother lived in one of those little those box cars they had. They lived there. A couple of families, about 6 or 7 families, would live in a boxcar. They arrived in Calexico. No, wait a minute. That was no. They arrived. The railroad hit California and Calexico, and then it came down. Gosh, I don't remember now what she said. Calexico. Calexico. The railroad hits Calexico, huh?
I'm not too sure.
But I think, Anyway, they hit a town, and he made it. They made it their home for a couple of months, and then my grandfather here, my Acevedo, wrote to him to tell him that they had a job opening for him in the Santa Fe here in Orange County.
Do you remember what that job was?
The railroad. They were laying tracks then. And I don't know if it was the Union Pacific or it was Santa Fe, but anyway, it was one of those. But they lived in the section of Union Station, so they must have been working for the Union rail freight. What is it? What was it?
The Union Pacific Railroad.
Because they lived in a section, and then they would only allow them to live there if they worked for the company.
Did they ever tell you any stories about living there, or what it was like?
It was little houses, one room, two. What was it? They had. My grandmother used to say, they had a bathroom outside. Of course, all the bathrooms were outside. But she said they finally connected light. And they had a light. Grandma had never had a light in a corner of the residential place there. And she said, oh, gosh, they love that light. They could see bugs anyway. She used to tell me that everybody was friendly. They'd help each other. They bartered a lot. They bartered a lot. Nopales, tomates, naranjas, limones. They trade off. Everybody had a little garden. Grandma Conchita always had chickens and goats, and they used to have their own milk because they had their goats, and they always had rabbits around, chickens. And they'd trade off, like somebody had gone to a field and had, in those days, they used to allow, after the thresher went by, they'd pick anything that was on the ground they could pick and take home. So that's what they used to do. They used to call that, God, there was a special name for it. That was a cute name. I'll remember it. They would get, maybe somebody would get a lot of beans, lima beans or whatever, and they'd trade off my grandmother for a rabbit. And, you know, that's the way it all went. And my grandma was a businesswoman. She was sharper than all hell. She was. She continuously egged my grandpa that they should have a ranch somewhere. And at one time in how old was I? About 1931, just before the earthquake. 1931, they were planting tomato in Costa Mesa. And they had about 8 acres. They rented from Mr. Zimmerman. And they made a nice amount of money. We all picked. My grandpa would have all of his grandkids go pick all their crops, and of course we would get 5 cents, 7 cents, 10 cents, whatever he thought we picked. They made a nice amount of money. They saved every penny. They were quite like I said, Grandma was a businesswoman, and by that time they were paying for a piece of property in Logan, and they saved enough money to buy a house from the riverbed up in Santiago Park. There was a house there that continuously got flooded, so they wanted it out, and somebody told Grandpa about it. They moved that on rollers. Not rollers, they would call them railroad ties, or the round ones are telephone pole things. And they rolled it to Logan, and that's where the house exists. This is it right here.
That's a nice house.
Is that it?
Yeah.
You got it?
Got it.
Okay. This is it right there. And that's the homestead.
So, in the meantime, when your grandparents were at the farm in Costa Mesa, were they living there on a little house on the farm over there?
Yeah,
Or,
they had my uncles live in the other house because none of the boys were married, so they had that Grandpa would plant and do all the things, and then the other boys had other jobs to do. They usually one of them was a musician, so he just had to stay in Santa Ana, and he had a radio station. He worked. Remember that old radio station on West Fifth Street, up near the riverbed, Santa Anita, around there? There was a radio station my uncle announced there.
what year was that around?
I don't remember. I mean, I asked I asked, nobody's left anymore. I'm the oldest. So, I don't have anybody to refer to anymore. My aunt was alive, so I had to ask her, but nobody's around. I'm the oldest of the Parga five. So, yeah. Okay. What else?
Well, I actually want to know a little bit about what are some of the first memories that you have of experiencing just growing up?
Oh, growing up?
Yeah.
Wow.
What are some of those first memories?
My first memories? Oh, gosh. In Santa, well,
Anywhere.
okay. My dad was a rancher, really. He was a man of all trades, but
So, what was your dad's name?
my dad's name was Louis J. Parga. Luis Jesus, that's his name. My dad was a rancher, really. No, he was a man of all trades, but he had a chance of working with a fella named Charpless, Earl Charpless, up in Tustin, and they gave us a free home to work. But my dad would work the property, and they gave us this. So my dad said, well, we have to move somewhere. We can't be living with Grandma forever. So we took off to Tustin on La Loma Drive. God, I remember the drive. Coming back real good, huh?
Yeah.
So we lived there in Tustin for about 2 years. We had a beautiful childhood there. My dad would fix Fords, cars, and he was a mechanic, a master of all trades, but he was a master and perfectionist. Um, he would fix them, and that was part of how he supported us, because we, at the time we lived over there, we were 4 girls, no boys, huh? 4 girls, and he treated us like boys, really, because when we'd come home from work, he assembled a motor and would put it on a big table, really, work table, and he would have us grind the valves and put in the spark plugs and assemble the motor, and he would have my sister and me do that, and he just that's what I remember about my childhood, always working one way or the other. I worked all my life, really.
So, what are some of those jobs that you had when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, I picked golly. Don't ask me. I picked tomato. I picked string beans. I picked cantaloupes. I picked figs. I picked oranges. I picked onions. Ooh, onions. Cabbage. We picked all that here in Orange County. And during World War II, I have a certificate there of which I wanted to show you, that we put in so many hours to help what was it? What was it? Agriculture. What else?
Well, do you remember, like, because this was when you were growing up, it was pretty much the Depression and World War II.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you remember how that might have affected?
Oh, honey, I have stories. I look, hon.
We got time.
We have time?
We have time.
Okay. All right, now, this is, remember we were showing you that picture of the house over there that fell on that's the earthquake. Remember I told you that the house fell on its piers, it fell over, well, that's earthquake. But before that, I have to tell you, how can I combine them? My grandparents on my grandmother's side, they were circus performers. The circus was named Escalante Circus. And they used to go to Logan, put their big trapeze on my grandma's, that's Florencia Acevedo. See how I mixed the family together? Because it combined, they were always together.
And you actually said that your one grandparent actually invited the other grandparent, so they already kind of knew each other before they even came here?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. That's why I say, when my mom and dad got married, they knew they were going to be married because, that's another story.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the Escalante Circus?
Okay, the Escalante Circus. They used to I've got all kinds of pictures, but we'll see them later. I don't know if I brought them, though. Yeah, they used to put their trapeze out because the kids had to, because my uncle had about, 8 kids, and they all performers, and they were all little kids, and they were all being taught, and he would he would put the trapeze out in the backyard, and he would teach them, and once the circus would come to Santa Ana, they when the circus came to Siena, it was because in LA they wouldn't allow them to put up a tent, and in Siena there's no qualms about it. So they used to come to Siena, in which they would call it uh, winterized. They used to come to Siena because they were they were staying here because the winters were much easier on them. And they'd go to school, Logan School too. Most of those performers became. I'll show you pictures later. Um, that was my grandmother's family. What else? Do you know what a convite is?
No.
A convite is like a parade, and they parade down Logan to announce the circus had been in town, you know, and it was just a little Logan area, and they had a couple of performers like jokes. They put on jokes and stuff like that, you know. Y bailaban, and they'd sing, and they played. The kids all learned to play music, all instruments. Golly, yeah, they were. God, pero a huevo.
So did you ever watch the performances yourself then?
Yeah, I was just a little kid. Yeah.
What was your favorite part?
Yeah, to see my cousin. Yeah, to see my cousin as a little girl fly all over, double hoop, catch the bar. Yeah, I thought that was cute of her. She's only a little girl.
Where would they practice?
In the backyard, my grandmother had a property, and she had an empty lot on that property. Maybe you could say 2 lots, because on her there was houses on one and empty on the other. And on that empty lot, they would put their tent up.
How long did that last? Like, when was the last?
Oh, just during summer vacation.
Do you know, like, when they stopped doing that, or when?
Yeah, they stopped there doing it when the girls started. No, when Siena put a stop to it.
Oh.
Yeah, they couldn't do it anymore. They couldn't put a tent up anymore, and they had to get a permit, and it was outlandish, you know, the fees for convite, the parade. So.
Do you know around what year that was?
Oh yeah, that was 19. Let's see, that was after the earthquake. Must have been about 1934. Easy, yeah, easy.
That's so cool. And I never heard about it before.
No, just the people of Logan knew about it.
Are there any photos of them performing?
What?
Are there any photos of them performing?
Oh yeah, I've got a whole lot of them.
That's so cool. Well, you mentioned the earthquake quite a bit as far as like marking when something happened. So do you remember that 1933 earthquake? Yeah. So what was it like? What was going on?
What was going on?
Yeah.
It was fantastic. I thought it was great. No school, no nothing. Hell. I think the best part about it was that we were camping outside. You know, that was a rarity, you know, in carpas, and we'd cook outside because we couldn't go in. My grandmother's house was, the chimney part fell, and it didn't, they had inspected before they went in. So we camped out for a long time. By the way, we used to live with Grandma and Grandpa Parga, my mom, and our family. When I was only a little girl, it was only two girls then, but we lived with my grandmother. That's why I know so much about my grandmother. She's quite a hefty little woman.
Did you happen to see like maybe like the downtown or any other areas like after?
Oh gosh, yeah. We saw we used to go buy our grocery at ¿cómo se llamaba la tienda? Papas. The Grand Central Market on
Second Street.
Second. We used to buy our grocery there, and it had lost a lot of brickwork, but they had to sell all their merchandise. So we took advantage of it, and we borrowed money. I remember we borrowed money from my grandmother, and we went out and bought the stuff that we usually didn't buy, but big cans of lard and big sacks of sugar and all that. And we, of course, divided with all the family. Like I say, they bartered all the time. Te doy una taza de café si me das un, you know.
So, and then is part of that, is it also more of a social thing than even just the money?
To barter? It's a necessity. Yeah. Because my mom used to make spaghetti out of, she used to have a big round, not round, an oval table, and she would make a big tortilla, and she would cut them in little bits, all like, you know, just strips, and that was the spaghetti. She would barter and sell it to other people, you know. Y era como fideo. In 1938, I started playing professional baseball, softball. And why I got to, before that, Willard Junior High School. When I was Willard Junior High School, I used to pitch to be able to play on the teams in other schools, they had to get a permit from the school board to let me play with the boys, because girls didn't play with boys. That was, must have been, oh gosh, I can't remember. Anyway, that's what happened. That was well, I started playing professional baseball. And when I started playing professional, I was, let's see, they were training me for shortstop. So I went for tryouts with the Lionettes, and I tried out, and I played a couple games. I don't remember how many games, because my mom found out that they were going to go into Arizona, and they were all married girls, and I was only 14, and she didn't allow it. So I didn't play with them out of state. And I couldn't cross the other state because I was underage. But I got to play with the Queens, Santa Queens, and the girls were all people that worked with us, pecked oranges with us. and I was my mom permitted it. Mhm. And by the way, I was an orange packer for 62 years. How's that?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So was it all with the same company or different companies?
Different companies, 3 different, but they're all Sunkiss.
Man, I have to go into the history of your time with Sunkiss. No. Well, I think we just have a little bit right. We
Okay.
have a little bit of time left right now.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to end with before we again? I think this is definitely we need to do a follow up.
Yeah, follow up on it. By that time, I'll have a lot of stories for you. But I'm going to drive you bananas because I keep jumping from family to family, you know, and I can't help it because I'm talking to Grandma and the other grandma's there, you know. That's how it went. No, I have nothing else to tell you except that I hope we see each other next time.
Okay.
Soon.
Yeah, soon, definitely. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming in.
Oh gosh, yeah. And you can take that book and read it. It's interesting because that's how much bullshit the city gave us. You can't imagine how awful they were to us.
And this is like 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yes, 70s.
70s.
The bullshitters, and the building commissioners and all them. They're the same.